Brian said in the ring afterwards, I told him if he wants to get on this show at Madison Square Garden on Triple G's show, he's got to fight someone tough. And the way he boxed so beautifully against such a big puncher, a guy that was 14-0 with 12 knockouts. Brian only had 8 fights, but he showed his heart, he showed his ring IQ, his boxing ability. So I want to have Brian Sabayo say a few words to the media, and then you guys can ask questions for either Tim Van Nieuwhouse's manager or Brian about his performance.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure to fight here in Madison Square Garden. I'm so grateful and so honored to be on such a stage like this. Thank you to everyone, to my team, Colin Morgan, my coach, Tim Van Nieuwhouse, Tom Lofter, Triple G Promotions, 360 Promotions, and just everyone that came out. I felt great tonight. I felt like tonight was the first time that I fully made the transition between amateurs and pros. I felt really comfortable in there, really confident. My coach and I, we've been working extremely hard on that, and I think we proved the point tonight. This guy, all he does is come forward. We stuck to the game plan, changed the angles, pushed him back a little bit, which he has never been pushed back, and we saw exactly what happened. I take my hat off to him because he did exactly what he had to do. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any questions for Brian? Before we bring down Gennady? There you go, Michael Woods.
Tom and Van, can you talk about how quickly you're going to move this guy from here? Was this sort of win where you said, geez, wow, you beat that showbox level guy, and now we're maybe going to accelerate his elevation a little bit?
Well, I think with Brian's marketability combined with his ring IQ, you saw how many fans were cheering for him. He sold a lot of tickets. He sold the most tickets of besides Triple G, of any undercard fighter on this show. So he had his fan base. Like I said, I want to thank Colin Morgan for his training and just his whole support team that he has here with him. So to answer your question, Michael, I think he can be on the fast track now. This really was that statement fight that he needed. This was his audition to sign with Triple G Promotions to put on a performance like this. And you know, with that backing, we could see him move pretty quickly. Welterweight division, we know, is all very red hot, is very competitive. Brian fits in perfectly with his marketability. He's fluent in Spanish. Has a great fan base, and with his boxing style, I think there's some great milestones to achieve for him.
He was initially signed too, Mike, to be on the fast track. 200 amateur bouts, 24 years old, back-to-back Olympic trials in both, years. So that was a big deal when we signed him, and the composure was what was very exciting about Brian, because I felt like he was going to make a perfect transition into the pros. And then when he debuted, we were like, oh, wow, look at all this. We didn't know what to see. And then the second fight and the third fight at the Hollywood level, and Brian just kept saying, like, step me up, step me up, step me up. And Tom and I were just wanted to keep that pace going, but I think he made a big statement to where he's going to be, and the plan continues to keep him on the fast track.
Good.
Question for Tim. After the fight, you said that some people weren't sure if this is the right opponent, but you were from the beginning. Why?
Because of how fast he is, the athleticism, the composure, the skills. I knew it was all there, and the confidence. Colin Morgan, I called Colin, and I wanted to see what he felt and see if he seen the same vision that I seen, and that's exactly what it was. And they didn't hesitate as it related to the fight. Tom and I went back and forth. Tom said, Tom was like, this is a dangerous fight for Brian. This is what we're doing, And I said, Tom,
so you guys sure?
Yeah, are you sure? Then let me sleep on that. I'll call you back. And then I got on the phone with my CEO, and collectively, it's a big decision. And he's like, I don't like that. I don't like that guy. He's like, I believe in the world of Brian, but I don't like this opponent. And it took me literally about a week, and I said, you know what? I see something in this fighter that I think is tailor made for Brian Ceballos on a big stage like this, a big platform. You're probably not going to get that opportunity again. And he did exactly what I thought he was going to do, and exactly what Callum Morgan thought. I think he exceeded expectations. Would you say, Peter? Considering his last outing at 360 on the 360 card.
So I think Gennady's ready to come down. So Brian and Tim will stick around here and can do some one-on-one interviews. We'll bring Gennady down, as well as Ali Akhmedov, who had a tremendous breakout performance also. Beat a guy 15-0, Marcus McDaniel. So Fred, if you want to bring Gennady down, and then we'll have him talk about his championship ring. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Brian. So I guess it might take a couple more minutes. I heard he was ready, but might be doing, might be back there with his doping test. So, Peter, now's your chance to ask any questions you want. Yeah.
And one of the questions we were asked after lunch and also today, if there is so something like creation of the skills, or maybe a long layout, between the fights, did you see something you wanted to see? And Gray was saying the power is still there, but it's maybe not the same.
Just getting an ETA on him. Look, this is the longest break since I've worked with Gennady. There's a couple very unique things about this promotion since I worked with Gennady since 2011. It's the longest break that he's had in his career. You're right about that. He was always the most active champion in the sport of boxing at his level, at least at that championship level. It's the first non-title fight that I've been involved in since 2011. Since I started working with him in 2011. And look, the fans just wanted to see him back in the ring, and he delivered. Had such a great energy at Madison Square Garden. This really felt like a homecoming for Triple G. Coming back home, we had the fights, the two Canelo fights in Las Vegas. Naturally, he's very popular in Los Angeles. He had the Martirosyan fight there. But since he sold out Madison Square Garden against Danny Jacobs, against David Lemieux, the New York fans wanted to see him back here. So they didn't care who he fought. They just wanted to see him back in the ring. Steve Rolls, you got to give him a lot of credit. As Lou said, Steve came to fight. You know, he wasn't backing down. He hit Gennady with some pretty clean shots. But you could see Gennady was using his strategy to break him down, body shots, and then when he landed that massive left hook, that Bowles was out before he hit the canvas. Another trademark knockout for an undefeated fighter. So, any more questions, Michael? Oh, yes.
Quick question for you. Somebody that was
the plan. I know DAZN signed Triple G to make that third fight. That's the marquee. That would be the marquee fight of their lineup. They're in the business not only putting on boxing but putting on the biggest fights. You saw Anthony Joshua just fought here last week, and then when you have an Anthony Joshua fight and a Triple G fight back to back, not only at Madison Square Garden but back to back on DAZN, you know, they're really changing things in the sport of boxing. And they made it clear to Gennady when he signed that they want to put on the biggest fights of his career, that are possible in his career. The Canelo fight is his biggest fight, just as the Triple G fight is the biggest fight for Canelo. So there's no secret about that. They fought each other twice. Arguably Triple G won both fights, but the fans are demanding they want to see a third fight. And we'll do everything on our side to make that third fight. I know DAZN wants to make that third fight. With this knockout here, I think they've made a huge statement that his power hasn't gone anywhere. So whether Canelo wants to make that third fight, you know, we'll see. But you know, I heard it in the media, they're talking about he needs a belt or whatever. You know, Triple G fought Canelo when he had no belts. And they're frankly, Triple G and Canelo are both bigger than whatever belts are around their waist. When those two forces collide with their fan bases, those are mega events. Those are some of the biggest events that can be made in boxing. And a third fight, the second fight was more exciting than the first fight. Canelo actually stood his ground and fought in the second fight, built up his confidence. Now he's got to have a lot more confidence. Maybe not after this knockout, but he's got to have a lot more confidence now than he did the first two fights. And I think the third fight will be even more exciting. There's no question. I mean, that's the goal. Gennady has voiced he wants the third fight. He had, you know, part of that layoff that he had, that Peter was referring to, is he was frustrated. Look, he loves the sport of boxing. He was so frustrated with that decision that, you know, 1 point from one judge can take away all those titles that he worked so hard to get. And when the majority of the fans, the majority of the media thought that he either won that fight or he had a draw, so there was a lot of frustration. I know a week after that fight, he didn't want to talk about boxing. You know, I just wanted to kind of, okay, let's figure out what to do. And he took some time off naturally between DAZN and all the other offers that he had. It took a while for him to sign, but you know, he's back. He's back with an exclamation mark. With his knockout power, with that chemistry with Jonathan Banks, I think you know, he signed a 6-fight deal, and I think you'll see him fight those 6 fights and potentially more with that kind of knockout power. That's not going anywhere, especially now with that chemistry that he's got with Jonathan Banks in his corner.
Tom, straight back here.
Well, clearly Canelo's the biggest fight because when they fought before, they did over 1 million pay-per-view buys. They set records for the gate up there in Las Vegas. Then there's a big drop-off after a Canelo fight. So we'll see. That's the priority. If for some reason that doesn't happen, then you know, we'll sit down with the team. Actually, Gennady makes the decisions all at this point of his career. He'll sit down with Jonathan Banks, but I don't think there's really any reason to speculate of a different fight until it becomes clear. The second fight we thought wasn't going to happen. You know, Golden Boy announced that they had a deadline. Actually, had a couple deadlines, and Gennady, you know, held his ground, and we made the second fight. So I think the third fight, clearly, I'm not sure how Canelo's deal is structured, but clearly there's got to be an incentive on the DAZN side for him to fight Triple G, just like there is with Gennady to fight Canelo. So it makes sense, financial sense for both guys. It's a fight that the fans are demanding, the media are demanding, and frankly, it's again one of the biggest fights that can be made in sport boxing.
Tom, straight back.
Dan, okay, there you go.
So I know you want to do the fight with Canelo for the third time. Can you just take me through what happens next? Is it that you wake up on Monday morning and call Oscar or Eric, or what is, you know, does DAZN call them? What's the making the sausage, so to speak, of the next step of trying to make the fight?
You know, we'll sit down with the team. Naturally, DAZN is the common partner again, when Triple G signed with the Zone, John Skipper said that's the clearest path to a third Canelo fight. So, he's gonna, I think John's gonna do his thing with whatever he can work out with, or discuss with Oscar and Canelo. And that's the priority on our side. We'll sit down with the team, sit down with Gennady, and then I don't think it's, look, we made 2 fights with Golden Boy. There were a lot of roadblocks, a lot of obstacles in making those 2 fights. We made a lot of concessions on the Triple G side. But since they fought each other twice, I don't think there's going to be a huge issue making a third fight unless Canelo really doesn't want to get in the ring a third time.
And then how quickly do you think there would be a resolution? I say that because September is not that far away. You have time, but how quickly would you like to have it buttoned up?
If a fight like that's made, you want to have as much lead time as possible to promote and make a fight like that. This fight was probably, beside the Martirosyan fight, this fight was the shortest lead time that we had for a Triple G fight. So that would be the optimal goal. Rather have a shorter fight, shorter promotion, and make the fight rather than a long promotion and not make the fight. So that would be the goal. Yeah, I think a lot will be discussed this week now that Triple G did his part in B-rolls.
You've seen Klitschko and Jonathan Banks and what they gave him. First fight, Triple G and Jonathan Banks. What are your thoughts on that?
I've known Jonathan for a long time. I knew Jonathan when he was a sparring partner for Vladimir Klitschko. Actually, for both Vladimir and Vitaly. And Jonathan had a huge accomplishment when he had to take over on short notice when Emmanuel got sick, trained Vladimir Klitschko in his training camp in Austria, and at the same time was training for his fight against Seth Mitchell a week later. I've never seen that happen before, where you train a heavyweight champion and then a week later you get in the ring and fight. So, Jonathan can do some extraordinary things. He knocked out Seth Mitchell in that fight. Vladimir Klitschko had a win in that fight. And now with the chemistry between Jonathan and Triple G, like I said, I think you'll see a lot more exciting fights to come in the future. If anyone, look, everyone knows how successful Gennady was with Abel. Again, we're not saying that Gennady had to change all kinds of things. That's why, Abel's not working anymore. Abel and Gennady had one of the most dominant runs of recent times. For Jonathan to come in on short notice and to be as successful as he was tonight, that's a huge statement for their chemistry, what they were able to do. Not only did he bring in Jonathan, he brought in a new chef. You got to give James Lockwood a lot of credit. Darryl Parker helped on the training and the strength and conditioning side. So he really kind of revamped his whole team, and he still, look at the knockout that he performed. You could tell he was kind of setting up that knockout. Steve Rolls, I think, performed better than some people were expecting. We weren't surprised by it because we saw the interaction with him throughout the build-up to this promotion. And we knew Steve was coming to fight. Lou knew Steve was coming to fight. Didn't surprise us. It's just the way Gennady was able to KO him. I think it showed that his punching power hasn't gone anywhere. We have Jonathan Banks coming up here now to the podium. So. Not only such a successful run with Vladimir Klitschko in his championship run, I wouldn't be surprised if he has another championship run like that, historic run with Vladimir, with Triple G now in the middleweights. Jonathan, why don't you say a few words, come up here to the podium, say a few words, and then we can answer some more questions here. Like, how did you think everything went with the training camp and, in the fight tonight?
Well, I guess to answer your first question. Everything went great in the training camp, but in the fight, I'm always looking for certain things in the fight. I didn't expect Triple G or any fighter that we have such a short camp to repeat everything we did in the gym or stuff like that, because although you try to get guys closest to the style of the opponent, but a lot of times you're a little bit off. And Steve Rose, like I say, while he's in there, he started catching Triple G with some shots that it was very uncomfortable for me because I wanted him to start off with some type of rhythm with using his jab. But other than that, I think as he got warmed up, you was able to see the little bit of rhythm that he had. He started throwing shots, he started shooting his jab, and he started catching over with shots. And that was the goal, just to start touching. We ain't had to hit a home run the first time out, just started touching him, and slowly breaking down. So that was the goal, and I believe that's what he was able to accomplish.
Steve, did you want him to go rounds tonight? Right. Did you want him to go rounds tonight?
Well, I always told him in boxing, you don't get paid by the rounds, you get paid by the fight. So if you ended or if it's over early, you just got more work to do in the gym. So that I don't try to take chances and say, you know what, we got a certain amount of rounds. Ideally, we want to go. I said, no. To me, every opponent is dangerous, and as soon as you get it out, as soon as you get the fight over with, the better.
Hey Jonathan, what was the biggest bad habit that you had to get Triple G out of?
I think every fighter got bad habits. I don't look at him and see what bad habits can change or what bad habits do we have. I can't think of one fighter that didn't have any bad habits. It's all about what habits what the fighter does, what can the fighter do most that he could be most successful in. Instead of looking to tear a fighter down, the goal is to look to build him up and to to keep him on a certain level that I know he's on. So for me, that's the goal, is to get him to getting better at doing good habits instead of looking at his flaws and try to point him out saying you can't do this, you can't do that, because you lose the fighter in translation like that. You know, as soon as you get a fighter, you start breaking him down. If he have any type of self-esteem, he just lost it. And now you got to try. Now you trying to find out why the kid won't throw no punches, because you just took everything he had, he thought was good away from him, told him it was bad. Now you got to give him something to do. So for me, the goal is to be very precise, be very on point with what I want to do, but yet you can construct, but just in a mild mannered way, so the kid can learn and still be respectful towards you, and you all can grow together.
In training camp, you usually get an opponent, a sparring partner to mimic Steve Rhodes' style. Was he doing that looping over hook bottom, or what do you call it, in training camp also, like he did in tonight's fight with Steve Rhodes?
Was Rose doing it, or was Triple G doing it?
Triple G doing it as a sparring partner in training camp.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was. He was practicing. The goal is to get him practicing a lot of different arsenal of punches. That's the goal, to keep going a lot of many different arsenals and different ways to punch. So your opponent can't set and brace for one particular punch because they don't know what you're about to do. It may look like a sure hand coming, but if you curve it, then you're in trouble. So if that's the goal, just keep the variety of punches up.
John, straight back.
Yes.
When you watch what Triple G did tonight and you think about him being in the ring with Canelo Alvarez instead of Steve Rolls, what are the kinds of things that you would want to see him do better? For example, I think somebody mentioned it, he didn't really throw a lot of jabs, but he did work the body very well, which he was criticized for in some of those fights against Canelo. So what sorts of things, if you were planning out, because that seems like that probably would be your next fight?
Well, I think first of all, if this was Canelo in the ring tonight, we definitely would have a longer training camp. So with a longer training camp, the output and the progress will look even different than it did tonight. I think tonight was a good start with a little base. So you can kind of see the foundation that we're trying to lay. And in order to continue, my opinion, in order to build back up a strong, successful house, you must start with the foundation. And that's the goal, is strengthen his foundation. But like you say, if Carnelo was there tonight, then Triple G wouldn't have been there tonight, because it wasn't enough time to really dictate the pace of where we want to be in the with the guy.
And do you think that now until September, whenever your camp would start, is enough time? you know, I've heard fighters say many times it really takes, you know, more than just 1, 2, 3, sometimes, you know, more than that to actually really get on the same page with the trainer. Obviously, you guys are both pros, you've been around a long time. But do you think you can cram it all in between now and September? What you feel like you need to, you know, teach him or change with him?
Well, I don't feel I need to cram in everything, but just like anything else in life, as you go from day to day, you grow. And I think if we can grow, continue to grow together, that would change the outcome of a fight with that magnitude.
All right, here's the man of the hour. Everyone that's been waiting for us, give a big hand to the people's champion, Triple G. Okay. So,
So official.
why don't, if you want to say a few words, Gennady, how was your experience working with your new team, with Jonathan in the training camp, and then how did you see that translate in the ring tonight?
First of all, thank you very much.
Hey, Coogan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, all people who support me today, who come today, because it's good for boxing, not just for me, for boxing, because the second step is much bigger. Thank you, my team. Thank you, Garden family. Just partners, everybody support me today. I feel great. Just my first meal after my comeback. I feel very happy. My smile all day.
Michael?
Question, could you give yourself a grade, A, B, plus, B, and then also can you tell us about that left hook delivered from the lefty stance? Did you work on that with Mr. Banks, and did you know that was going to be there, or was that a spur of the moment? So first question, could you give yourself a grade, and then can you tell us about that left hook that ended it?
Я не могу себя сейчас оценивать. Как я себя могу оценить? То есть вы должны это сделать.
How can I grade myself? You should grade me.
I don't know. I feel not bad. Just I want to try maybe a little bit boxing. Just not so interested. First couple of rounds, I still like nothing. I come like my second. На вторую передачу и начал брать силы это все.
I shifted from the first gear to the second gear, and then you start from that on.
Triple G.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about straight back, Gennady.
Oh.
I was going to ask you about Canelo, since that was the conversation in the ring afterwards, what everybody has been talking about with Tom and with Jonathan before you got here. How do you think your performance tonight, what he would think about it? He's lost you twice. You scored a great knockout. You worked the body very well. You also got hit with some shots, that the one shot in the second round. Do you think that you gave him, Canelo Alvarez, a reason to say, sign me up? Or gave him a reason to say, maybe I'm not so interested?
Yeah, I tried today, you're right. I try a couple times, body work. I don't have time. Just only 2 or 3 rounds. This is nothing.
But did you make your point to him, or did you make him want the rematch or not want the rematch? Third fight.
Я не думаю, что я ему показал, что я хочу этого боя, это самое главное. То есть, и все, я думаю, что все хотят этот бой увидеть. То есть, этот бой будет следующий, как можно отталкиваться даже от этого боя? Это совсем разные вещи.
I don't think I show him, I wanted to show him, demonstrate anything. This is a different story. This fight and our fight. Let's not even talk and compare this fight to our fight.
Gennady, this question is for Gennady Golovkin. Xavier Porter, BrooklynFights.com, Super 5 in the building. Over here, Gennady.
Yeah.
Triple G this way, to the left. Here we go. Same way you threw the left hook, over here. All right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Quick question. You mentioned after the fight, in the post-fight the post-fight conference that you said after the second round, you kind of, realized that you had him, that you was ready to take him out. Was the strategy, or did you feel as if that you were beginning to, break him down in the sense that he started to open up to allow you to land your power punches even easier?
Yeah, I feel him. I feel distance. I feel timing. Yeah, after the second round, I come back to my corner and tell Jonathan, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Because, he's a little bit open. I give him a little bit couple chance. He's open. I see next round, start working, just so close fight. So when they have a lot of time, just 3 rounds, it's nothing.
4 rounds. How do you read his power? Because you did get hit a few times in the ring.
I don't feel him.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hey, this is boxing.
Yeah.
Gennady, great performance. Dan Canovio with CompuBox TV. I don't know if you saw this tweet. Oscar De La Hoya tweeted after the fight, nice, with the thumbs up emoji. Comeback win. Now fight a real fighter. Win a belt. I'll consider doing a third fight. Hashtag Canelo is your boss. Just want to see your thoughts on that.
Вообще ничего думать. He talks so much, he back talk, and I'm thinking about for he said Oscar. I'm thinking about что он делает, как он выглядит. Мне вообще это не интересно.
Not really interested in what Oscar is doing, what Oscar is saying. I'm not really interested in that at all.
Я не увлекаюсь мужчинами, если мне вообще без разницы.
I don't really like, following men. I'm not about following men at all.
So safe to say you're not going to tweet anything back?
Мне что ему написать? То есть, его мнение.
What do you think I should write to back?
Maybe say,
you look good, you're a smart guy, what do you think?
I'll probably say something back, maybe, hey, I'm my own boss.
Come on, he doesn't know me. Just forget it.
I think that's a lot of posturing from Oscar.
This is hype, this is hype today. Oscar, just forget it.
Again, it's clearly the biggest fight for Canelo is Triple G. There's no denying that. And before we get to the next question, I just want to acknowledge Ali Akhmedov, who had also a tremendous performance on the show tonight. Ali also trains with Jonathan Banks. Max Golovkin actually was a chief trainer because it was the co-feature, right, before the fight, but Jonathan is his trainer, and Ali had a breakout performance also as the co-feature. So now everyone up here on the podium is open for questions.
And also, before you answer that question, there's another middleweight out there, he's on the other side of the fence, but I have to bring him up to Jamal Charlo. What do you think about this fight?
Они очень интересны, то есть я вот сегодня сделал первый шаг, то есть в приоритете у меня лучшие бои, лучшие имена. Если они останутся там на тех же позициях, что и сейчас, мы сразу же будем разговаривать с ними.
Yes, very interesting. Those both are very interesting fighters, and my priority, if they still want to fight, we'll talk to them. Who would be a tougher fight for
Сейчас просто реклама для них идет, они просто стоят, каждый на своей позиции, как можно сказать. Пусть они между собой боксируют, тогда мы поймем, кто из них лучше, кто из них стоит выше. Сейчас я как могу сказать?
I don't want to advertise any of them. It's two different fighters. Let them fight each other, then I'll tell.
I can't right now. Yeah.
I don't think that microphone is working.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. That's just a mistake. You've been fighting in the US for about 6.5 years now. Have you looked back at your time here and the kind of fan base you put together, the belts that you've won? Have you taken time to look back at your time here in Pride?
Что мне надо завершить сказать? Я не понял просто. Just seriously, just I don't understand the question. Just what do you mean?
I was asking because you fought here in America and especially at MSG a few times now over the past years. Have you looked back at your time here with pride because you've come from where you've come from and be able to come over the world and sell a lot of tickets and develop a fan base and win titles?
Я очень признателен болельщикам, то есть никакой вид спорта не обходится без болельщиков. Если болельщики действительно есть, это же прекрасный вид спорта. Мне в чем гордиться? Это же здорово для спорта.
I really appreciate my fans. Why should I be proud? I really appreciate it. It's important for athletics, for sport, for boxing. The fans are what the most important thing.
And lastly, if you could map out, if you could map out the future of how your future fights would go and how your career would like to end, how would you like it to end?
Right now I have 6 fights with the zone deal. 6 fights. Every step very important for me. Probably I hope next fight in September with Canelo.
Hey, Golovkin, over here. You stated that you wanted a rematch with Canelo in September. If you're unable to get that rematch with Canelo, James Jacobs has stated that he will love to avenge that loss with you. Would you consider giving him a rematch, perhaps?
Sorry, can you repeat who you mentioned?
I'm saying that if he's unable to get that rematch with Canelo by September, is James Jacobs perhaps a potential opponent that?
Нет, но сейчас вы говорите о тех людей, которые уже прошли и показали себя. То есть есть ряд бойцов, кто стоят хорошо в рейтинге, кто чемпионы. То есть давайте о них думать в первую очередь.
We're talking about fighters who already sort of passé. We already saw them, already fought them. A lot of new fighters, very highly rated fighters. Let's talk about them.
Thank you, sir.
I have 2 questions. First is, in your last fight against Canelo, it seemed that he came out a little bit slow in the beginning. Did you have a plan to come out a little bit quicker this time?
Seriously, I don't feel. Yeah, next fight, every fight is different.
Okay, and my second question is, if Canelo called you and said he wants to fight, if he said he wants to fight you at 160 or 168, does it matter to you at what weight he wants, or you'll fight him at any weight?
Ну, мы сейчас разговариваем о деталях бизнеса, то есть там же за 160 стоят пояса, то есть если мне пояса не нужны, то есть там много нюансов, то есть это надо все оговаривать, как я могу сказать, мне без разницы, то есть это же бизнес, это бокс.
So we're talking about fine business detail. At 160 we have belts, so we have to talk about belts. 168 is a different story. So let's not talk about detail yet.
Thank you.
When you came here to announce this fight, you told me personally, you said that the most honest boxing happens at Madison Square Garden. So with that said, if you were to get the 3rd fight with Joe and Tom as well, do you want that 3rd fight here at Madison Square Garden? And Tom, do you think that's going to be an issue?
Yeah, I won't because it's different people, different atmosphere.
I think also to expand on what Gennady said and to go back to that last question, there's no reason to speculate on other opponents besides Canelo. Gennady's, what he's stated is his priority to make the 3rd Canelo fight until to exhaust that. And I want to acknowledge Melissa Moscow and John Hornauer who are here in the audience. And like I said, the team will sit down and try to make that fight. So no reason to speculate. Naturally, Canelo fought here, Gennady fought here. We do have, met with James Dolan this week, and he said if there's a way to bring it here, he'll do everything he can to bring it. So if there is a way. This is probably the most neutral place since Canelo fought here and Triple G fought here for that fight to take place. We're gonna wrap up here. We'll take one more question. I know Mike, you've been waiting. We'll take one more question and then we'll let these guys go home.
Congrats, Gennady. I've also heard that it's possible you could fight in Texas against Canelo Alvarez. Would you enjoy that?
Опять же, это детали, те, которые стоит обсуждать. То есть, ну как я сейчас могу сказать, то есть, мы сейчас будем боксировать в Техасе, то есть мы в отличных отношениях. Сейчас мы с Спартаком делаем большую работу, чтобы этот бой состоялся здесь. То есть мы не слышали еще предложения никакого с Техаса. То есть это уже все в процессе. Давайте поговорим чуть позже. То есть оно имеет быть, но чуть позже поговорим.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yes, we know about Texas, but it's maybe a little too early, a little too premature to talk about that. It's a business proposal. Right now we're in Madison Square Garden, and they're really trying to make this next fight possible. So let's talk about Texas when we hear from Texas.
To be clear, though, you definitely don't want to go back to Vegas after the judges.
Знаете, я вам откровенно скажу, что у меня есть осадок от того, что творится в Вегасе. Ну, и как бы, мне просто, не то, что я прям не хочу принципиально, но у меня большой осадок от того, что там случилось.
It's not like, in principle, I would like to go to Vegas, but I have some bad feeling.
Correct. Bad feeling and some bad scores.
Just curious, you know we're talking about Canelo, we're talking about Daniel Jacobs. Is there an opportunity? I know they're fighting in June to face Andrade versus Lecky, depending on the winner of that fight.
Can you speak a little louder?
Yeah, sorry. I know everyone's talking about Canelo, and I know everyone's talking about Jacobs. Would you be interested in a Sulecki or Andrade fight, depending on the winner of that in June?
Ну, я уже ответил сейчас на этот вопрос. То есть я же говорю, есть ряд ребят, которые не битые, которые чемпионы. Они в первую очередь стоят в очереди. Чем мы сейчас будем говорить о возвращаться к какому-то, то есть поднимать какие-то имена.
I already answered this question. There are some undefeated young, interesting fighters. That they should be a priority, not to come back to those fighters we already know.
Я говорю, он стоит в том же ряду, что в принципе и Чарло. И, ну как вот сейчас я вам скажу, давайте буду драться с Андрадо, а что с Чарло? Сейчас вот люди начнут раскачивать за Чарло. Я скажу, буду драться с Чарло, будут говорить за Андрадо. То есть, ну я сейчас не найду с вами, то есть общий язык. Вы сейчас провокационные вопросы задаете. Кто из них будет готов, обязательно мы, то есть сейчас в приоритете стоит Канело. Если не Канело, то будем разговаривать с ними.
It's kind of a provocative question, because if I said Andrade, you know, the Charlo will ask why not Charlo. If I say Charlo, Andrade say why not Andrade. Now priority is Canelo, so then we can talk about others as well.
We'll wrap it up here.
Yeah, Gennady, this is Big Will from Sidestep Boxing. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Ali is your fighter under Triple G Promotions. How happy and impressed are you of him tonight as the co-main event?
I'm very proud. You know, not first belt, it's WBC International Intercontinental. I like, he has a dream, just I help him come to his dream. That's it. You know, just 100% his turn. You know, he won today, good job today, you know, good fight. He looks good. I'm very proud of him.
Let's give, on that note, let's give Ali an opportunity just to speak, and applause also. So, Ali, great performance. You beat a undefeated 15-0 fighter. How did you feel fighting at Madison Square Garden as the co-feature to Triple G?
Я чувствую себя отлично, чувствую себя превосходно. Я счастлив.
I feel myself great, I feel perfect, and I'm very happy.
Peter?
Ali, I spoke with Goran Garcia before the fight and after the fight, and he said that he loves everything what you're doing because the character, the cast, you can do everything. He also said what the Triple G said. You are just one of many fighters that Triple G wants to bring to the United States, maybe on these events. How is training with Triple G, seeing Triple G going very well, helps you to achieve next level of your performance?
Ну, в первую очередь я хочу сказать, что я очень рад находиться рядом с Геннадием. Тренироваться с ним для меня это большая мотивация. Все, что требуется от меня, это работать. Я готов много работать и готов к новым боям.
First of all, I'd like to say that I'm really happy to be next to Gennady. It gives me a huge motivation, and I'm looking forward to the next fight.
All right, I think with that, so we'll take.
That's it?
No, I got one more.
Okay, let's go. Let's do it.
This is I got a question for Tom and Triple G. What was the biggest difference dealing with the Zone, which is a streaming app, coming from HBO for both of you guys, as a promoter and as a fighter?
I can answer it just on the promotion and the business side. Look, HBO had a storied history of 45 years of broadcasting the best fights in boxing. It's so many historic champions, championship fights, biggest level events. So by the time Triple G made his HBO debut in 2012, that was a well-oiled machine. Anytime you said you fought on HBO, you knew you finally made it to the big time. With the Zone, you got to give the Zone credit. They've really shaken up the boxing world, the world of boxing, because in less than a year, they're putting on stars like Canelo, like Anthony Joshua, like Triple G. So they've really made a huge shift in the sport of boxing, as well as not being on the traditional platform on television, broadcast platform, but on streaming, which they want to reach an even broader audience than your traditional television platform. So naturally there's going to be some growing pains, but we're impressed with the overall strategy of the Zone, and we look forward to many more fights on their platform.
I feel like the Zone like a new generation is coming, you know, like new blood for sport, for, not just for boxing, for everything. It's next level. Как сказать? Ну, это будущее, я уверен, что он развернется. По крайней мере, оно сейчас показывает, что оно выше встречи ESPN, плюс эти стриминговые направления, это номер один сейчас.
We see it as a future. At the very least, it's much more interesting and better on ESPN Plus and some other streaming platform. We're talking about the Zone.
Once again, I'm sorry to be post press conference, you were saying 99% chance if I keep roll, I'm fighting Canelo. So, I mean, 99% is pretty high. We just go out and let me say your fight Canelo in September.
То есть я готов, я хочу, все хотят, я здоров, я думаю, он тоже здоров. Что нам может помешать? Все в этом заинтересованы. Я не вижу проблем никаких.
I want it, he wanted, I'm healthy, he's healthy, everybody wants it. So I don't see any problem now.
So there's no problem making that.
So the ball's in Canelo's court.
Balls in Canelo's court, that's for sure.
Just 1% to Oscar.
So we're gonna wrap it up now because these guys, they're gonna head out there and go back.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out.
Hey Fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you go ahead and do so by clicking this icon right here and hit the bell button so you can get notified every time we upload a new video. And we also have a free app available on iTunes and Google Play, so make sure you go and download that. Bye Fight fans.